Right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Hashem, Wakakashi, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh. It is only begotten Son, Hashem, and the name of Hamashiach Yahushua. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashwagash, Old Tongue, and I say Barakabel to the elders and apostles, and I say Shalom. And this is a set down lesson of the prophecy updates as of February 1st, 2026, on this Sunday night. And this is the book of Luke 21 and verse 25. It reads, it says, there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon the earth expressive nations will perplex sea rich water. And this is a news article from the this is a news article from the this is a second news article. Right, so this is a news article from ABC News, and this is published by Abdul Settar from the Associated Press. It says from February 1st, 2026 at 8:53 a.m. it reads, it says Pakistan says it has unalived 145 Indian-backed groups after a deadly attack. It says it comes a day after a brutal suicide and gun attack unalived 33 people. In Quetta, Pakistan, and Pakistani police and military forces unalived over 100 plus Indian-backed groups in a counter-terror operation across resistive southwestern province of Balochistan over the past 40 hours. It says a government official said on Sunday, a day after a coordinated suicide and gun attack that killed 33 people, mostly civilians. A raid begins early Saturday in multiple locations across Pakistan, as at least 18 civilians, including 5 children and 3 children, and 15 security personnel were unalive, authorities said. It says Sakhavash, Pakistan, if I pronounced that right. The provincial chief minister told reporters of Guatemala that the troops and the police officials responded swiftly, unaliving 145 members of the Fitna al-Hindustan, a phrase of the government used for the alleged Indian-backed outlaw Bashkal Liberation Army, or the BLA. The number of militants unalived over the past 2 days was the highest in decades, he said. The bodies of 145 groups of the Indian-backed groups are in custody, and some of them are Afghani nationals, he said. It says the Bakotai claimed that the Indian-backed groups wanted to take hostages but failed to make it to the city central. He spoke alongside with senior government officials, Hamzali Sharif, who often oversees such operations against the resurgence in the province, and praised the military, police, and military forces for repelling the assaults. The militants' attacks erupted on Sunday in a source-rich region where Pakistan is seeking to attract foreign investment, mining groups. In September 2025, a U.S. metals company signed a $500 million investment agreement with Pakistan a month after the U.S. State Department designated the BLA an arms wing as a foreign terrorist organization. Residents described the scene as panic after a suicide bombing unalived several police officers on Saturday. It says it's a very scary day in history in Guatemala, says Khan Mohammed, It says in their local residents, armed men were roaming openly on the roads before security forces arrived. The Bekmatai reportedly accusing India and Afghanistan backing assailants. Says that the senior leader of the BLA, which claimed responsibility for the latest attacks in the Baluchistan, were operation in the Afghani territory. Both Kabul and New Delhi denied the allegations. He said on Sunday, Afghan and Taliban pledged under 2020 Doha agreement not to allow Afghani soldiers to use a base for attacking other countries. But unfortunately, the Afghan soldiers will still be able to attack Pakistan. It says tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan has persisted since early October, which that was last year, when Pakistan carried out airstrikes in what it describes the Pakistan Taliban hideouts inside Afghans, killing dozens of alleged resurgents. The Baghouti, if I pronounce that right, which is a Bugti, if I pronounce that right. It says militants stormed the home of the Backlot labor and Gandhar in unalive 5 women and 3 children. He condemned the killings. He condemned the unalivings. He said that the attackers has planned to seize hostages and install government officials in Quatela high security zone, but were thwarted. But we were, it said, but we were able of their plans. We were aware of their plans, and our forces were prepared. He said the BLA banned Pakistan and carried out numerous attacks in recent years, often targeting security forces, Chinese interests, and infrastructure projects. It says authorities said that the group has operated with support of Pakistan Taliban, known as the Tehrik-e Taliban Pakistan, or the TTP, a separate group. It's allied with the Afghans Taliban, who returned to power in 2021 of August. Pakistan has long faced a separatist resurgence. The ethnic Backlog group seeking greater autonomy or independence from Pakistan's central government. The BLA regularly targets Pakistan security forces and also has attacked civilians, including Chinese nationals, among the thousands working on various projects in the province. This is the book of Luke 21 and Luke 21 and verse 25. It says, "For there shall be signs in the sun, in the moon, and the stars, and all the earth expressive nations will place secret for." Right, so we're seeing Yahushua spoke about in the Gospel of Luke 21, verse 25. There shall be an uptick of signs of transgressive nations will perplex secrets born. That's what we're seeing. And this is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 9. Because tension's been heating up between the borders of India and Pakistan, between both sides from different faction groups from Pakistan and from India as well too. And we've been seeing that throughout the years and generations, and as of recently as well too. This is Second Ezra chapter 9 and verse 3. It says, "Therefore men shall be seen earthquakes in the upwards of the world." So we're going to see an uptick of earthquakes and the upwards of the world. And this is Second Ezra chapter 15 and verse 15. It says, "For the sword, the destruction draweth nigh, and one people should stand up and fight against another with swords and hands." Right, so we're not a moderate swords, but so one people should stand up and fight against another with swords and hands. With these uptick seditions and tensions among the nations. And we're seeing modern day rule against modern rule, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, disgressive nations with blessed secrets born, the wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. We're seeing that increasing on a daily basis. And this is the book of Second Ezra 15, verse 16. It says, "For there should be sedition among men, invading one another. They should not regard their kings or their princes, and of course, actually stand in power." Right, and that's what we're seeing. Citizens are rising against their leaders in power, of course, actually stand in power. You got these different type of organization, factions, groups, clashing against their leaders in power. We've been seeing that between the borders of India and Pakistan. We've been seeing that over there in Myanmar. We've been seeing that over there in Sudan. And we've been seeing that different parts around the world that citizens and organization factors are rising against their leaders of powers. That's something that continues to increase. And this is a second Acts 15 or 16. For there shall be sedition among men, vetting one another. They shall not regard their kings or their princes. And of course, actually their power. And that's what we're seeing. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 12. Yep, it's the book of Matthew, chapter 12, and verse 25. It says, and Yahushua knew their thoughts, what hearts they mind. He said unto them, every kingdom divided itself is brought to desolation. And every city or house divided itself shall not stand. Right, so every house or city or kingdom divided itself is brought to desolation. And that's what Yahushua spoke about. And we see the signs of it. That's going to come to full effect. And this is verse 26. This is the Gospel of Matthew, verse 26 that reads. It says, if Satan cast out Satan and be divided himself, how should his kingdom stand? Or so Satan be divided himself, how should his kingdom stand? That's what we see. So as it says again from ABC News, February the 1st, 2026 at 8:53 a.m. As it says again, Pakistan says it unalived 145 Indian-backed groups after a deadly attack. It says comes a day after a coordinated suicide gun attack battle that killed 33 people right between the borders of India and Pakistan. So that's what you call wars of people, war, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, moderate rule against moderate rule. It says the Sudanese war-torn capital sees a second commercial flights land since the conflict begins. It said this is from February the 1st, 5:03 a.m. It says normal life has disappeared. Russia energy offense plunge Ukraine's into dark. Right, because I believe it was yesterday. It was a blackout over there throughout Ukraine, and in which Moldova is going to last time I checked, because I did a prophecy update that was mentioned about that from RT.com yesterday. So while they're pushing forth a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, but the tensions have been escalating between Russia and Ukraine. And it says another wars and rumors of wars. This is from February the 1st, published by John Gabriel from Associated Press. And it reads from ABC News, February 1st, 2026 at 12:11 a.m. And it says Iran Supreme Leader warns any U.S. attacks will spark a regional war. Now, I think as of right now, they potentially might have some discussion and talks. So last time I checked the news article. And then on top of that, what's so crazy about it is I think I read a news article from RT.com. It was saying that if the United States and Iran have a deal, that kind of make the Israel Defense Force kind of mad and upset, because I believe they're supposed to be meeting with the officials from the United States. I believe they're supposed to make some unexpected trip or something like that, because you do want to have, according to the news reports, you do have the Israel Defense Force want to have the United States to use a strike against Iran. Because keep this in mind, you got Iran and the Israel Defense Force, they arch enemies. So keep that in mind as well too. It says Iran Supreme Leader warns any U.S. attack will spark a regional war. Trump has threatened to strike Iran over his crackdown of a nationwide protest, right? Because it's been going on for almost a month now. It says, almost a month and a half, almost close to 2 months now, because the protests started in late December of last year and all into now. It says the Iran Supreme Leader warned Sunday that any attack by the United States will spark a regional war in the Middle East, which is West Asia. It says further escalating tensions as President Donald Trump has threatened some military strikes on Islamic Republic over his crackdown on nationwide protests. It says the comments from a 86-year-old Ali Kamali are the most directly threat has been made so far as the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln has Associated Americans warship armed in the Arabian Sea, sent by Trump there after Iran's bloody crackdown on nationwide protests. Because I believe they're still dealing with their media blackout over there in Iran. Because ever since we haven't been hearing any more about those protests that taking place, because they got the media blackout over there. I won't be surprised they still got those protests going on over there in Iran. It says it remains unclear whether Trump will use force. He repeatedly says that Iran wants to negotiate, has brought up Tehran's nuclear program as another issue he wants to resolve. But Kamali also refers to the nationwide protest as a coup, hardening the government's position as tens of thousands of people reportedly have been detained since the start of the demonstration. It says seditions charges that Iran can carry out a DETH penalty, which renews concerns about Iran's carrying out mass executions for those arrested, a red line for Trump. Iran has planned a live firing military drill for Sunday, but I believe they had canceled it. It says Monday in a strategic sprint of Hormuz. It says the narrow mouth of the Persian Gulf, though which a fifth in all oil trade passes. The U.S. military Central Command has warned against threatening American warships or aircrafts during the drill or disputed commercial traffic. Kamali spoke to a crowd at his compound in Tehran. Iran marks the start of a day-long commemoration of the country's 1979 Islamic Revolution. Here, at one point, described the U.S. as being interested in its soil, in its oil, natural gas, and mineral resources. Said they want to seize this country, just as they control it before. The Americans are aware that they are waging war at this time, and it will be a regional war, he said. The Supreme Leader added that we are not instigators and we're not going to be unfair to anyone. We do not plan to attack any country, but if anyone shows greed and wants to attack or harass the Iranian nation, we'll deal a heavy blow. That was that Joel, the third chapter, let the weak sound strong. It says asked about the warnings Trump on Sunday told reporters that the U.S. has the biggest, most powerful ships in the world. They are very, very close in a couple of days. And hopefully we'll make a deal. If we don't make a deal, then we will find out whether or not he was right. Kamali also hardened his position on the demonstrations after earlier acknowledged some people has legitimate economic grievance that sparked their protests. It says the demonstrations began December 28th initially over the collapse of Iran's world currency. It soon grew into a direct challenge to Kamali's rule. It says that the recent sedition was similar to a coup, of course. The coup was suppressed, he said. Their goal was to destroy and this goal was to destroy sensitive and effective centers involved in running the country. For this reason, they attacked the police, government, centers, revolutionary guard corps facilities, and banks in Moscow. It says, and burning copies of the QURAN, they are targeting centers and that ruined the country. So I ain't gonna read all of that. I ain't gonna read all the rest of it, but y'all get back to that Luke 21, verse 25. Unless Iran and the United States come to some type of agree, unless the United States and Iran come to some type of talks to ease the tensions. But till then, we still gonna be seeing tensions rising between Iran and the Israel Defense Force. The Israel Defense Armies versus the United States armies versus the pro-Iranian groups and the Iranians of their armies. So that goes into that Matthew, it's the 24th chapter. Wars are rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. This is Luke 21, verse 25. It says, "There shall be signs in the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity wage war." Right, so distress of nations with perplexity wage war. And that's what we're seeing. Get back to that Luke 21 and verse 9. Let's bring up that Luke 20 verse 9 slot. Yeah, this is the Gospel of Luke 21 verse 9. "But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but it's not yet end by end by." Right, so it's going to come to pass, it's going to be fulfilled, but it's not going to end just end by end by. So on a daily basis, we're going to see the modern day uptick of increasing of modern day wars and commotion between the nations, and that's what Yahushua is showing us. Luke 21 and verse 10. "Then say he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." That's what we're seeing. Nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Those tensions are between the borders of India and Pakistan. The tensions over there in Myanmar, the tensions over there in Sudan, and tensions over there in the Middle East or Western Asia. The Russian-Korean situation, what's going on over there in the Korean Peninsula, North Korea versus South Korea, Japan, United States. What's taking place down in the South China Sea, China versus Taiwan. So that's what you call modern day wars and commotions, and modern day nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom. What's that's going to continue to increase. So we have to get to some more news articles. It says a shooting at a Louisiana parade leaves 5 wounded, including a 6-year-old. Sheriff says, right, was that Matthew 24 chapter, because of nicotine bound, 11 ministry at school. So it's always liberty. It's spirits created for vengeance as well too. It says top stories. It says a police officer unalive in a shooting at a Georgia hotel where spirit created for vengeance. It says teenagers charged in a Louisiana parade shooting. Once again, spirit created for vengeance. Lawlessness and iniquity is abounding. So check out some more news articles once again. So part 2. It says a Ukrainian drone strike unalive a woman and child near the Mariupol. Authorities say, right, because despite the fact they're pushing forth a peace deal with a ceasefire deal between Russia and Ukraine, you still have the tensions are heating up between Russia and Ukraine. So that's another indicator of wars and wars. It said France protesters tears U.S. It says the French protesters tears a European Union flag of the Brexit rally. Right, wars of people who are It says Trump orders feds not to help a Democratic won cities with riots. That's the getting to that second Exodus 16 chapter. A great insurrection and sedition. That's why it says it's that Mark the 3rd chapter. If a kingdom be divided, except the kingdom not stand. And so you got the people on the left and on the right, which we've been saying for a very long time. It's being divided now, so more than ever. And this is 2 Mark chapter 3. And that was 2 Mark chapter 3, verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided, itself the kingdom cannot stand. Right. So modern day kingdoms are being divided, which cannot stand. That's what we're seeing. The nation of Edom and the kingdom of Edom in modern day times are being divided. So that's going to continue to increase. And this is into some news articles once again. It says Russian. I think this is from the Washington Post. Read this news article. So man, they striking Russia is striking Ukraine once again. It said this is from February. This is from the Washington Post, published February the 1st, 2026. Today, so we gotta pay for that news article. Yep, it says Russia. It says Russia strike energy sector after Trump pushes for a short-lived pause. I guess that little 1 week short-lived pause that lasts, even though it's I think it's gonna last all until next Friday or next Thursday. Last time I checked. And this is from the Radio Free Radio. Yep, this is from the this news article might be free to pay no subscription. Yep, this is a from the Radio Free. Yep, Radio Free Radio Liberty. And this is from the RFEL/RL. And this is from February 2nd, 2026. It says Ukraine awaits new round of trilateral talks. So I believe they had I think it was like last week, if I'm not mistaken. They had it over there in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, I believe, because you had trilateral talks with the United States, I believe, and from Ukraine, and from Russia's representations, and I believe the Arab nations as well too. It says Zelensky. It says Zelensky. President Vladimir Zelensky says a new round of trilateral talks with Moscow and Washington is set on February the 4th and the 5th in the United Arab Emirates, right once again like it was last week, with the gathering coming after another round of deadly Russian strikes on civilian sites. It says in this night video address on February the 5th, Zelensky says there is a arrangement to hold a trilateral meeting in appropriate level on Wednesday and Thursday in the United Arab Emirates as the last time. There have been uncertainty about the talks, which originally were scheduled to take place in the United Arab Emirates, capital on February the 1st, Zelensky on January 31st. I believe that was yesterday. And his team said they were ready for such negotiations, but that he was awaiting word from the United States. I have scheduled a meeting on February the 2nd with Russia near Mobile. Zelensky said refers to the company's main negotiator. The Ukrainian leaders aim to agree on a framework, although Adabdahi, I believe that's what they pronounce it, talks prepared everything on the evening of February 2nd. The team will reportedly be en route to negotiation It says February will be the period of quite intensive foreign policies active on our part, which contracts to the meetings beginning tomorrow. So this is that. It says we expect that American side will be pushed as active, and they particularly applies to the de-escalation measures, reducing strikes, and much depend on what the American side will succeed. And so that people who trust both the process and results of course, he added the U.S. and Russian officials did not immediately comment on his remarks. The following talks, direct negotiations involved Moscow and Kiev along with the U.S. representatives. Resumed the on January 23rd and 24th meetings. Ukraine and Russian negotiators have been rare since Kremlin's full-scale invasion in February 2022. Right, so ever since then, since it's been heating up between Russia and Ukraine, hey, Shalom to brother Yolanda. Hey, peace and blessing to you, your household. Shalom, Hashem Shabbat to you, your household. Shalom. So once again, this is Mark 3 and verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided, except the kingdom not stand. Right. So if a kingdom be divided, except the kingdom not stand. So we see in the modern day, nations and kingdoms are still going to be divided, despite the fact they're pushing forth a ceasefire, trust agreements. As we've been saying, and continuously. So those tensions are still going to be there until then, unless they have some extremely serious talks to fully end the war between Russia and Ukraine. But like I said again, in the meantime, this is not being shown up between Russia and Ukraine. It's like those recent airstrikes that Russia did on Ukraine, and then Ukraine did on Russia a drone strike that unalived a woman and a child. So till then, these Russian-Ukraine situations only going to escalate on a daily basis until they find more peace talks and more progress on talks between both sides from Russia and Ukraine. It says, check out some more news articles.
Another step back. That's his favorite move, going back to his left. A high hockey. Turn around in the air. So when you start running back like that, makes you go, well, the question is, you know what it is. It's a fluff. Outside Hayes, his second. Arabian Hayes, 2 for the Lakers.
It says NATO ability to material Russia has taken a hit with the transatlantic attempts infighting, infighting with the Edomites against one another.
In the clutch games, that's games within 5 points in the last 5 minutes. JJ Redick seems to be outstanding. That's in the lead at 14-2. You go, okay, well, it's
I think this is news page articles, I think. Yeah, these Russian news articles. Yeah, that's the Russian news article. That's the previous one. Yeah, those are the news articles. Check the Jerusalem Post. Prophecy updates.
Early here in New York, the Snoop digging out last week's storm. Snoop and the Ray Lopez.
Yep, so that'll be about it. this prophecy updates. And shalom to the brother Yuanathan, and peace and blessing you over your household as always. As we continue lifting up the names of Yahweh while Yahweh Shai. So, as I mentioned again, this was just a prophecy update as of February the 1st, 2026, on this Sunday night. So, with that, we'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bakakadash, and the Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and His unbegotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Rosh Hashanah, the Holy Tongue. And I said, well, I'm to the elders and apostles, until the next time, I would say, Kumesh Shirala, and the Ball, Shalom.